So my bunk leader, my cabin leader, that first summer that I went to that Salvation Army camp, he had a CD that he played nonstop all day long. And we were jamming, man. I was like, then this is Christian? Are you kidding? That album was DC Talk's New Thing. God is doing a new thing in our lives. And I was obsessed. You know he's doing it. Yo, who's doing it? God is doing a new thing. And I will say this.
Wow.
I will say this. It didn't age well.
That's one way to put it.
But at the time, I was in like 3rd grade, dude. Come on, man. My parents wouldn't let me listen to MC Hammer or Vanilla Ice. I had to go with DC Talk. What up? So,
ice, baby.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
yeah.
That being said, I was really into that kind of music, got into the Christian thing, but I had this total love for soul, R&B, and hip-hop, and really wanted to get into that. And my parents wouldn't let me.
So not much has changed.
And as you know, Daniel, when you want to do something as a child, you never rebel.
No.
You never go the other way.
Sam, I think I'm sensing here, you know, how you were talking about your mom. When she wants something, she goes after it. She finds a way. I think Sam might have inherited this a little bit.
I think I'm my mother's son.
You saying you're a mama's boy?
So anyways,
Sorry.
Before I get into this junior high thing, because that's like a big part of it, I did want to say I also had a number of, I don't want to say near-death experiences because I don't want to say it wrong. So we'll call it a near-death experience, like Canary Cry just did in their recent episode when we're recording this.
We're coining your phrase again, guys. Thank you.
Yes. So I've had a fair amount of near-death experiences, not near-death like my heart stopped and I went to the other side, just situations where you're like, oh, wow, that could have been it right there. So when I was in my earlier years of school, during the Christian school years, my sister and I were on our way back from North Dakota visiting my grandparents. And it was just my mom and us two. My dad had stayed back to work. I think we went for a week or something. We got up in like a 4 or 5 car pileup.
Whoa.
I wasn't wearing my seatbelt.
Dude, you were me as a kid. You were just asking for it.
I was in the back seat in the middle. And I put my arms out. And I caught both seats.
Oh, wow.
So by the grace of God, I didn't go through the windshield. And then the car got smashed up. So we had to get it fixed, right? So check this out. The car is getting fixed at a auto body shop. We head down to that shop to pick it up with our other car. And Sarah and I get out of our other car. And my dad and mom are with us. And we were like, oh, the car's ready. So we jump in the back seat of our station wagon. It's an elevated parking lot. So it goes downhill. The car is parked uphill. We get in the car. Parking brakes not on. Had no clue. We start rolling backward. And again, by the grace of God, the steering wheel turns. And it must have been cocked enough to like the left that it just totally righted itself. But it would have gone into Route 31.
Right.
And it was like busy traffic.
Right.
I just want to throw those out there because I'm going to get to some later. Loved music, right? I took piano lessons.
You took a music lesson of some sort?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I took piano lessons for 1 year. I wanted to play piano so badly. Here's the problem. I didn't have the patience. I just wanted to go outside and play. I didn't want to practice. I always had this like thought that I learned how to read music. I don't think I ever did. Mm-hmm. I think I literally picked it all up by ear. I would just memorized all the finger positions and everything. I'm like, okay, because it was like the first year. It's beginner stuff. It's not crazy. It's not hard to memorize stuff like that. Anyway, if you watch the videos of my recitals, they're so ugly. I mean, it's like pause, play, because I think I was trying to read the music too at the same time. I was being forced to, so I was doing what my instructor wanted me to do. Anyway.
Just to feel the situation, man.
Yeah, well, it was pretty much a lost cause because I am a very stubborn person, and it was a waste of money to even have me there. So my sister picks up after I quit. Whew, ascends to the top, man. You should watch her recital videos. She just cruises. She's using the advanced books, you know what I mean? Just nailing it. So, Dan, I just realized I totally spaced out. I did forget to mention that at an early age, I think it must have been around the time I went into private school when I accepted the Lord as my personal Savior, Jesus.
Got to say, the pastor's kid throwing you out in your undies on your rear probably didn't help much.
But maybe I shouldn't even talk about it now. I'll just talk about it later.
You can talk about it now. Or later, whatever works.
Whatever. Because I feel like throughout my life, I've had many times where I've, I guess, re-asked the Lord.
Yeah.
Back into my heart, where I felt like I was so far away from Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there were times as a child, when you have faith like a child, you know, where you don't have any questions so much as when you get older. So I didn't have doubts like I did. You know, it was more so just sin and behavior as opposed to questioning the scriptures.
Right.
I had many times like that in my life. Probably one of the worst times was in junior high. And before I get into that, I'll talk about getting into junior high, and then we'll get into you know, some of the struggles that I went through in junior high. So in 6th grade, I got into swim team, and I was always a swimmer. I mean, not a competitive swimmer, but my mom always had me I think she had me in baby floating classes when I was a little kid at the YMCA. And then by the time I'm 4 years old, I'm swimming to the bottom of the pool, like touching the deep end, you know, and I just loved swimming. There's something about it, just being engulfed in the water, and I felt it. But I didn't necessarily consider myself like a fast swimmer. I just thought, oh, I can swim, and it's really fun. So I never took it seriously. But in 6th grade, my mom decided to put me in swim team, and so a couple of my friends that lived in the same area, and this is at the time when I was not hanging out with Aaron. This is the time when I think I was too cool for Aaron, or whatever you want to call it.
Aaron was too cool for you.
That is exactly true, because Aaron is too cool for me to this day. But so me and my friends, they were 3 brothers, and they were raised by only their mom. Their dad had passed away right as the youngest son was born. Their father passed away, and he actually passed away, I think, due to DDT, which, you know, from the fields of farming, you know, the chemicals, pesticides.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what DDT stands for.
I don't remember, but it had to do with, he was, you know, working on a farm for the majority of his life, and they used pesticides, and he ended up getting cancer. And they believed it was related to that. But I never knew him, but I knew his kids. And I just want to just say this because I don't talk to them very much, but they came to my wedding years later, and that was just phenomenal to talk with them again. They were Catholic, raised Catholic. Their mom was like the most tenacious single mom in like a good way. Like, she was on her kids. She tried to bring them up the best she possibly could, and never brought another man in before them. She dated a couple guys very not seriously, and before long she could realize it wasn't going to work out for her unit, and that it would be better for her to just have her sons and raise her sons and not put her energy into another man. And I just want to say that woman was right on. I just want to say she did a bang up job. I mean, those guys had a rad mom, and those were like my tightest friends aside from Aaron. Went through a lot of things with them growing up, and so we were on swim team together. And we were on the B team, which is the later practice. It's if you're on the A team, which is the advanced swimming team. It was a park district for McHenry, the McHenry Marlins, and we went to the later practice, and we would slough off. You know, we'd be swimming laps and touching the bottom of the pool while other people are swimming laps, you know, in the deep end. But my first day, I'll just never forget this, because this was like the first day I ever really felt confidence in anything, like maybe I could do something that I had no clue until that moment about. So at the end of the very first practice of the very first day that I attended that swim team, we had a lane line crawl. And now this is an L-shaped pool. So the lane lines go on one side of the pool, you know what I mean, long-wise. But then if you were to turn around to the other side of the L, you'd have to crawl over the lane lines to get to that one square of water that has no lane lines. Do you know what, you know what I'm saying? Am I painting a picture of an L
I think
decently?
I've seen what you're talking about.
Okay, so it was just for fun, but it was a race, you know? Who can crawl over all these lane lines? I'm like, forget that. I'm not crawling lane lines. And some people decided not to crawl lane lines, but I basically swam underwater like the whole way, as much as I could past the lane lines, and I beat everybody. I blew them out of the water. And I was using like a dolphin kick. And
I still don't understand how you do that.
I had never done the butterfly yet. I only knew freestyle. But I knew that kick because I had been in numerous like swimming lessons at YMCA's and stuff. So I knew that kick. And that was when I realized, whoa, I got some power. I guess I might actually be cut out for the A team. But I didn't pursue it because my friends were on the B team and they weren't as fast as me. So I was like, nah, I'm not as fast as that. But that was like where I remember that day very vividly, and like, wow, maybe there's a chance that I could be good. But I didn't pursue it. I hung out with my friends, and so I get into junior high. My first semester, I'm doing awful. I probably didn't really care that much either. I wanted to do things that I wanted to do, like any selfish little kid. And
Junior higher.
Anyway, yeah, it was a piece of work. I hate to say this, but like I probably have more of like a disposition to space out and not hear people. I'm not saying that I have a disease, but I tend to get lost in my own thoughts very easily. So I have to focus. Like I have to consciously focus on things harder, I think, than most people do.
Yep.
But
like ADD kind of thing.
So I went to the doctor, and they told me I had attention deficit disorder, and I had to take Ritalin, right?
Here, take 2 of these.
So my mom puts me on Ritalin, and
worst
that was
ever.
So the first quarter of the year I was not on Ritalin, and I did horrible. Second quarter, I got on the honor roll, but I wasn't like all A's. It was like A's and B's. But I was also really trying, like avidly trying to do it, because like I believed that I had this disease, so like this medicine must be working, like and doing it all for me. But I really think it was me. Now looking back, and wouldn't you know, my grades went back down third and fourth quarter and never went back up. I mean, I did not care when I was in school. I was drawing, and I did that throughout school. I would just draw and not care about what I was doing, and I would just fill my homework out before class started, or I really didn't apply myself. And in hindsight, I should have. It would have taught me more discipline. It probably would have prepared me more in a lot of ways that I'm and having.
Apparently, you paid attention to grammar.
That just kind of came natural to me, was grammar and English. I went through 6th grade, got into really started getting into secular music, and my mom. She did not want me to listen to secular music. And at that time, just going to throw this one out there for anybody in my age bracket, but remember Snoop Doggy Dogg, Doggy Style, and Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and, all that really stupid gangster rap that came out in like the early to mid 90s with fantastic beats, but just horrible, horrible lyrical content. I was really into that. And I was really into, at the same time, I was really into like groups like Jodeci, and Daniel's like, who the heck are you talking about? But these are all, SWV. Like I loved like those types of voices, D'Angelo, really into that crooning stuff. But at the same time, I really liked the hard gangster rap. So I say this, music at that point, I think that this is when it really hit me. Like, music really became my God. Like, that became almost like a religion for me, and it didn't stop
I can't see what you mean.
throughout my life. So it got to a point even that in 6th grade, I never forget, there's this girl, and she was going to sell me this soundtrack to this really short, low-budget film that Snoop was in called Murder Was the Case. It was Murder Was the Case, the soundtrack. And I couldn't get my hands on it because, you know, my parents are Christians, and you can't buy parental advisory CDs at, like, any store if you're not 18 and whatever. There was a bunch of stipulations. You know, she had the hookup. So I skipped lunch for an entire week and gave her all my lunch money for a CD.
Wow. Dedication.
Yeah.
I would have been like,
talk about
this.
I mean, talk about idols, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's humorous, but it's serious at the same time. And when I got into 7th grade, that's when I started, like, that summer, I went through puberty. My voice changed. I lost a bunch of weight. Wasn't this pudgy little kid. Got into football and a bunch of other stuff, but I started hanging around with the other kids in the neighborhood.
The kids that made it the bad neighborhood.
I think, like, my mom, her intentions were good, but she's like, you know, maybe you could start hanging out with the kids in the neighborhood and, like, rub off on them and, you know, be a good example, and we could just have peace in the neighborhood. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Pipe dream.
You did not know. She didn't have a clue what those kids were really into and what those parents were allowing to go on. And I think she knew to a degree, but she was hoping for the best. So she let me pretty much kind of run wild with these neighborhood kids for an entire summer. This was 95. Man, I remember so many things so vividly, but that's when I started smoking cigarettes. That's when I started, I did drink a couple times, ride my bike around drunk.
Boozing.
It wasn't like a huge habit or anything, but really the things that were the worst that I did was I started to steal and lie a lot. We would go to Six Flags Great America, and a bunch of our friends and their parents would drop us off. Mm-hmm. We'd steal Pogs and whatever we could. I think my friend stole a Snoop poster. He somehow stuck it in his pants and walked out straight-legged and got it. Like, they would steal starter hats, fitted starter hats. I mean,
Starter, like that used to be like a
Starter
thing.
used to be like the brand, like gangs in Chicago.
Starter's like Walmart
yeah,
now.
You go to Walmart now and you get Starter. It's the same thing with like Mongoose bikes. Mongoose bikes used to be a big brand of, you know, BMX bikes. But you know the game. They would steal hats and all kinds of stuff, and we had no conscience. Like, it was really bad. Like, we would walk into stores and just find like the low budget cigarettes. Like, Parliaments at the time were low budget. Like, we'd steal Parliaments like it was hotcakes. Steal lighters. You know, it sounds like juvenile, but that was really pretty messed up. So check this out. That summer was like really where I was heading downhill the most I had ever been in my life. Mm-hmm. Last week of summer, 3 days before 7th grade begins, my friend who I had mentioned that was on swim team with me, the ones that weren't as bad.
Yeah, one of the three brothers.
He was mowing his aunt's lawn, and I helped him weed whack. And he got paid, and I think he was going to give me a cut or something. But I didn't care. I just wanted to hang out with Bob. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Bob was the man. His aunt had an oval-shaped pool. Well, we had this little game. You know the ladder that goes into the pool? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out how I can describe this where it will make sense to the audience. I feel like I can draw it for you. But, so the ladder had, I guess, 3 steps to it, right? Or, I guess technically
4 if you count
3 steps, 4 steps if you include the top of, where the pool is.
Okay.
It was one of those plastic ladders.
That you put into the pool.
Right. Well, yeah, it was actually fastened to the pool because there was a deck. It was fastened to the deck with screws. So we had this game where, I can't describe it exactly, but we would take turns and we would hold our breath one at a time. You'd swim underwater holding your breath through all of the openings between the ladder steps.
Okay, that's really weird because my friend Drew and I used to do the same thing in our pool with the plastic ladder.
So you do that too?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's probably not too uncommon then, unless we're just complete freaks of nature. We know we're somewhat freaks of nature.
That's true.
But so we would
I'm not a Nephilim freak of nature.
So we did that, right? Mm-hmm. I end up at the bottom right here, at the last notch at the bottom of the pool. My head's on the bottom of the pool. The step is in between my legs.
You got stuck.
I got stuck, lodged at the bottom of the pool. No, it's not a really deep pool. It was like, 3,
Doesn't matter. Your head's underwater. You're stuck, man. You're stuck.
Dude.
I've been there.
I thought I was gone, dude. But here's the thing. You never want to freak out underwater when you think you're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. Immediately. I screamed, let all my air out. I was freaking out. And I thought I was done. And Bob just rips the ladder. Dude, this ladder, I'm surprised it didn't crack the way he ripped that thing. But Bob rips the ladder up out of the water. And I'm still stuck. And I finally get myself out of it. And I'm looking at the ladder. I'm freaked out. The ladder's just totally even with the deck, going outward.
The plastic bent.
Yeah, it was that bent, permanently bent. So, I'm sure whatever he got paid that day probably should have gone back to the ladder that we broke. I think he might have bent it back. I don't know what happened with that ladder. Anyway, so that happens, right? Then, a week after 7th grade begins, so probably a week after that incident, I rode a neighborhood girl back to her house.
Rode a neighborhood girl?
Sorry, I rode my bike.
Oh.
Gotcha. I think I rode her on my handlebars.
Oh.
On my BMX bike.
Yep.
Back to her house. Gave her a ride. She was a year older than me. Doing her a favor. Doing my thing. She was kind of one of the crew of bad kids as well. Up to no good.
I feel like I might know where this is going.
Well, on the way back, I had just acquired a pack of cigarettes. I believe they were Marlboro Lights, if I'm not mistaken. They could have been Reds. I think I was at Lights at that point. I think we had split a case of cigarettes or whatever you want to call it, a carton of cigarettes.
Oh, it's like a case, man. You guys really got into the shoplifting.
Here's how sickening it is, really. The carton was bought by my friend's parents. She had smoked cigarettes, no problem at all. Her parents let her smoke since she was in 4th grade. So that's just an example of, just one example of many examples I could give. Anyway, I gave this girl a ride back, and I had cigarettes on me. I'm riding, and it's totally dark at this point. I'm riding by the little store, and probably 4 or 5 blocks away from my place. It's kind of like a main road that I was on. All of a sudden, just these lights coming. This van pulls into the driveway that I'm riding past at that moment and just hits me head on. I fly off my bike. And the bike ends up somehow landing on me, must have hit the car and then bounced off the car and onto me. I was okay. I was scared. Another one of those God situations, just like the week previous and just like some of those other situations I had mentioned. Normally, I would have had my mom be notified, but because I had cigarettes on me, I didn't even say a word. I was like, no, I can't get caught with these cigarettes. I can't ditch them anywhere. It was just paralyzed by fear. Mm-hmm. And luckily I was okay. I mean, maybe not luckily. Maybe I should have gotten hurt and gotten caught. But that being said, I think the Lord was trying to tell me something, Daniel.
Oh, he does that.
Throughout 7th grade, I was very problematic. That was probably, if you were to talk to my mother and father, that was probably the worst year they ever had with me. And I'm not looking forward to whatever type of repayment the Lord will allow my kids to give me, because I know that I was a little hellion. I stepped up to my dad. I remember one time I stepped up to him and pretty much challenged him, and he slapped me. He just slapped me down, and I got back up. I was so stubborn. And he slapped me again. I deserved it, man. I was a punk.
It just doesn't seem like your dad, but I mean, it needed
You
to
know
be done,
what?
but
My dad is like the most chill, calm dude. He did not deserve that, for
he
one.
really is.
Second of all, I have not seen many people make my dad angry, and I've probably managed to make him more often than anybody. So I think like I said, my friend Aaron, he's seen my dad angry once or twice in his entire life, and he spent a lot of time over there. I think once, and it was my fault. That's just an example of how bad I was. I was starting to get into the whole girl thing. I was
Just giving her a ride back.
starting to pass notes to these girls in 7th grade, and things were going on. What up? But all my friends, all these kids that I was friends with on my block, they were starting to like have sex. Like, we're talking like 7th grade, like they were starting to like do all that stuff. I was not even like, I had not even kissed a girl, and I mean, I ended up kissing a girl that year, or a few girls that year, but
173. What's the difference?
I think it all kind of came to an all-time low when my friend Bob that I was mentioning, I think his mom took a clue that this neighborhood's not for us anymore, and the kids are just getting into way too much trouble. So she pulled them out of that neighborhood. They bought a new house like a few towns away and did their own thing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I got into the worst of my trouble, because, as I said, music was my god.
Mm-hmm.
I started selling Ritalin. Yeah, man. I was a hard gangsta thug.
Look at this boy over here.
I started selling Ritalin, and kids were buying it from me. They would buy it from me, and
I'm just curious, does Ritalin fall into like a Percocet category as a downer?
No, it's an upper. It's like cocaine or something.
Okay,
so people would snort it. Like
they would crush it up and
snort it in the bathroom. I remember seeing them do it after I would sell it to them. I know it's really weird that I'm saying that, but...
Well, no, I used to... I was diagnosed with ADD, and I took a drug called Concerta.
Yes. I'm aware of that one, but that was after my time.
Right. It's a non-steroidic, so it's... Ritalin is a steroid drug.
Mm-hmm.
It supposedly doesn't have the same effect, but it's definitely an upper. Like, I went off of Concerta halfway through my first year of Bible college, and I hated it because it would wake me up. We were going through snow camp at the time, very little sleep, 8 weekends in a row, and I would take it, and I would be the most wide awake person in class for 5 hours straight. I could track everything they said.
Wow.
Anyway, so that is not important, but I'm just curious about what the effect of Ritalin was, because I was never on it.
We should do a study on all these drugs.
We should.
We
should do a study on ADD.
That would be a good episode. But we'll not get into that for now.